Hello. Hey, welcome back to the show, the wrestling show. We're keeping it real, goes right. Welcome back to Real Take Wrestle Talk live here on YouTube. We're keeping the lights on here. We're hosted by, of course, the barman, Trevor Sutton. Trevor, say hi to the people. How you doing this week?
I'm good. How about you, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. And as always, myself, El Jefe of Real Take Unincorporated. Omer, we've got a wonderful show planned for you guys today. We'll be talking about the very, very busy week in professional wrestling. We're also going to be previewing Money in the Bank, AEW Fighter Fest, Night 1, much, much more. Going to be talking about the end of the Thunderdome era, Trevor, in WWE, AEW All Out ticket sales, and of course, the debut of Malachi Black in AEW. Plus, this week in wrestling history, Black Saturday. We'll be talking about the day that changed the wrestling world forever when Vince McMahon truly began his quest to become the king of professional wrestling. Before we get to any of that, though, remember to hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new episode is released. Also, to a reminder to everyone, we'll be having our first ever overtime, which is going to be our new post-game show following this show exclusively on Patreon. There, we're going to be going over some segments we won't get to on the live show and probably won't have time for, but we're going to be talking about them exclusively on there. You'll get to hear me and this guy bicker and me telling him why he's wrong about professional wrestling, as always.
As
Uh,
always.
as always. But you'll get to hear a lot of that exclusively on Patreon. So if you can, head over on to patreon.com/Real Take Sports and select the $5 a month tier or above, and you get access to all of those and basically get to hang out with us 30 minutes after the show ends. Yeah, and why wouldn't you? It's only $5 a month. Again, only if you can. I love you guys. I really do love you guys, and I love the content that we're put out. And supporting us on Patreon can go a long way. And again, you get our exclusive overtime show right after this show. So why wouldn't you? Again, only if you can, though. Only if you can. Um, so, Trevor, let's start today with news in WWE. Actually, before we get to that, let's start with some sad news in the wrestling world. As many of you know, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff has passed away at the age of 71. He was known to generations of fans as a villainous character, Mr. Wonderful, but news of Orndorff's death was announced by his son Travis. Known for his well-sculpted physique and long-time finishing move, the pile driver, Orndorff was the ideal bad guy in an era of wrestling that really needed his type of heel. You know, cocky, self-important, hardened. He really liked to show his opponents up, and he was perfect for that. He played that role immensely in the best way. Many will remember him for his opponent, for being one of the opponents in the tag team match in that WrestleMania 1 main event with Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. And if you're a nerd like me, you'll remember him for the amazing segments he did in WCW in the mid-90s with world-renowned psychic Gary Spivey. Not Dan Spivey, Gary Spivey. Those were amazing. Go check those out. WCW 95 was an amazing time to be alive. I wasn't alive, but still an amazing time. But in all seriousness, the Hall of Famer gone again, and one of the last remnants of this almost bygone era at this point. You know, from the original WrestleMania, the golden era of wrestling. He was suffering from dementia that many linked to CTE from his time in the ring. So, Mr. Wonderful again passed away at the age of 71. Trevor, you know probably more about Mr. Wonderful than I do. You probably watched him a little bit, maybe in the 90s. But in your opinion, what is like the legacy of Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff as in professional wrestling?
You know, so in professional sports, they always talk about those who should have hung it up early on. They stayed too long. Those who don't know, Paul Orndorff wrestled until like 2001, 2002 in that area, and he also wrestled for New Japan, like clearly into the late 90s. And this man started in like the early mid 70s, or was it mid 60s, something like that. He was around for a very long time, and I think his legacy will always be it for one having one of the best villainous characters, like you already mentioned. he was one of the best villains I've seen. Like, I mean, there are a lot of, but he really, really embraced that villainous character, and he really was a villain. Like, I told you a story off air about when he took a picture with this fan, and like before they took the picture, he was really nice and he was really, everything. Soon as they asked him to take a picture, that character turned on and he turned his back on him and looked at his mirror, and that's how the picture was taken. Like, he was pretty much ignoring them. They're smiling, and he's looking at himself in the mirror because he admired himself more than he admired anyone else. And that was Mr. Wonderful. Mr. Wonderful would walk down that aisle. You knew it was Mr. Wonderful because of his music and just the way he carried himself. He was one of Hulk Hogan's biggest villains. Especially he actually helped Hulk Hogan's career very, very tremendously. I mean, he was Mr. Wonderful. He really was. Like, some of the things he did in the ring was just amazing.
A lot of people have tried. A lot of people have tried to be the next Mr. Wonderful. You can point to Narcissus, aka Lex Luger, in WWE in the 90s. A lot of people, the masterpiece Chris Masters, whatever you want to call him. Like, a lot of people tried, but there really was only one Mr. Wonderful, like, who embodied that character so well. He was literally built like a Greek god. We all know that, and he commanded the audience. Like when he like held a mirror, like you said, holding up a mirror and looking at yourself can be really hokey. It can be perceived as really hokey, but he played it off so well that you legitimately believed that this guy was being dead serious, and you weren't laughing at him. You were actually pissed. You were like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Like, thinking he's like better looking than me or whatever. Like, that is such a rare thing in any era of wrestling to be able to accomplish, and he was really able to accomplish that without looking like a fool, like many who tried after him did look like. So Mr. Wonderful's legacy, dude, he's going to be remembered as the guy who was able to pull this gimmick off that not many, honestly, anyone else has been able to do seriously after him. Like, he is one of a kind. The wrestling world has lost a huge person in Mr. Wonderful this week, and we just wanted to give our take on that and pay a little bit of tribute to Paul Orndorff. Again, Paul Orndorff dead at the age of 71.
One thing I'll add to that, just to put a bow on it,
please.
You mentioned that a lot of people try to copy him, and this gimmick wouldn't really work without the right person doing it. Mm-hmm. Imagine it translating in Japan, because he did the same gimmick over in New Japan, and like he was big in New Japan. Like, they loved him in Japan wrestling. Like, he was. I mean, they loved to hate him, and like, for that to translate not only in English but in another language, well, you have to be doing something right.
Absolutely. Again, there won't be another one. There genuinely will not be another Paul Orndorff. Looking at the chat real quick, Liam has finally arrived. He says, I'm a little late.
Liam.
How is Mr. CEO and head trainer? The CEO is doing great. The head trainer, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. How you doing, head trainer?
Right. I'm doing pretty good.
Doing all right. Also, he says, rip. Yep. R.I.P. Paul Orndorff. Man, that did make me kind of sad, but
yeah, that one got me a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Hey, what can you do? Anyway, let's move on. We'll try to move on here and talk about something positive. The wrestling world, of course, going to move on. Trevor, this Sunday is one of the best pay-per-views in I said that wrong. Trevor. Yeah, I said that wrong. I totally flubbed that up. You call me two-take host, or I don't know, two-take Johnny. I don't know. That's what I call myself. Anyway, but Trevor, this Sunday, WWE will be hosting Money in the Bank. And let's run through the card real quick right here, as you guys can see on the screen. The men's Money in the Bank ladder match. We also have the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Rhea Ripley will be defending her WWE Raw Women's title against Charlotte Flair for what seems to be the 5th time. Bobby Lashley will be going against Kofi Kingston, defending his title. And Roman Reigns versus Edge, the match that we didn't get at WrestleMania, that everyone was promised at WrestleMania. We're finally going to get the one-on-one matchup between these two, honestly, legends at this point of the business. So just initial rumblings, Trevor, initial thoughts, rather, on this card, the build-up to Money in the Bank, and what you think.
Now, is this the complete card?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Because I thought there were going to be other matches. That's why I asked. But no, it's a good card. It can be a good card. Again, I'm a little tired of Rhea Ripley and Charlotte, but it can be a good card. And it's only 5 matches. That's amazing. Even though it's going to be longer anyway, because the Money in Bank matches are pretty long sometimes. But no, it's going to be interesting to see. I'm actually kind of willing to pay attention to this one.
Yeah. Actually, one quick thing to note, that graphic actually missed one match. The Raw Tag Team titles are also going to be on the line. AJ and Amos are going to be defending against the Viking Raiders. Yeah. So, my bad on that, but also, who really cares? Like, honestly, who really cares? Love AJ Styles and
Bianca Belair's not defending her belt?
No, Bianca Belair will be defending her belt on Friday Night SmackDown live in front of the first crowd. Like that, they want that to be the big attraction. That's going to be the main event of Friday Night SmackDown. So I'm excited for that. Can't wait to see that. You guys can also see that on this Friday on Fox. But let's run through this card. Let's start going through this first. Let's start with the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. It's going to be Ricochet versus John Morrison versus Riddle versus Drew McIntyre versus Big E versus Kevin Owens versus King Nakamura, as they're calling him now, versus Seth Rollins. One of these 8 men are going to take home the Money in the Bank briefcase. They're going to have that title shot at any champion they choose. Riddle, by the way, said that he wants to cash in on the tag team champions with Randy Orton, which makes him look like a huge goof. But look, there's a lot of people here you could see winning. The people that stand out especially are people like Big E and McIntyre, potentially Owens, and Rollins maybe. That's like the second tier for me. But Trevor, take us through this match. Who do you think should win, and who do you think is going to win?
So, honestly, in this is a pretty good matchup. This is a pretty good lineup, honestly. I would love to be able to say that Ricochet should win, you know what I mean? Or Ricochet could win. I would love to be able to say, even as he's kind of past his prime, but even Morrison. It would be nice to see Morrison win something like this. But honestly, I don't think any of those guys have a shot. Will honestly win it. Honestly, I believe it's either in my pickings would be McIntyre, Big E, or Rollins.
Yeah,
that's who I'm going. I'm in either one of those 3, but honestly, I'm leaning more towards Rollins. Honestly,
yeah. I mean, Rollins would make sense if the end result of the Universal title match would be Edge winning, because Edge and Rollins is the big program that everyone knows is going to happen at SummerSlam. So if that was the case, then yeah. But going by what I'm seeing here, I think the logical choice here, because the story's already built. The story is built for Drew McIntyre to win, if we're being honest.
It definitely is, yeah.
It is built for Drew McIntyre to win because what was the stipulation of their Hell in a Cell match they had? It was if Bobby Lashley loses or wins, Drew McIntyre will not get another shot at the belt while Bobby's champion. What's a way to circumvent that? What's a way to get over that? For him to win the Money in the Bank ladder match, get that briefcase, and get that no-holds-barred title shot that he really wants whenever he wants. So that's, I think, that's a likely result. Liam says Riddle might be a potential winner of this match.
Yeah, because they're building a story with him, too. They really are.
Riddle, I think, here's the thing. Riddle will be, I think, when Raw goes back onto live crowds, Riddle will be the most over thing on that show. Like, by a long shot. You can anyone who watches wrestling, anyone who follows wrestling, like you'll know Riddle is definitely going to be the most over person on Monday Night Raw. But as far as winning this match, they haven't really built towards that. It would come out of nowhere in a bad way because I don't think they have any plans for Riddle to win. Because if he does win, I think you might see a similar situation where WWE does the switcheroo like they did with the Otis storyline. So I don't want to see that happen with Riddle at all. Right. McIntyre would be I think the more obvious choice. You could put it on a heel like Rollins, have him walk around with the Universal or with that Money in the Bank briefcase. And look, the Money in the Bank briefcase, the whole gimmick is made for a heel, right?
It is. Like, it definitely is.
So it could work with Rollins. But one thing I'll tell you, or a few things I'll say, honestly, I promise you, Ricochet, Morrison, and Nakamura have zero chance, unfortunately, to win this. Like that's, I will put my money on that bet that they will not win it.
Like I said, it'd be nice to say that I believe that they're going to win, but I know they're not. So there's no point in whatever. And it's a shame because I would love to see Ricochet or honestly even Morrison with a shot or Nakamura with a true shot, but it's not going to happen. It's going to be the three that we talked about, or it's just going to be McIntyre.
Yeah. So final picks, I'll do McIntyre.
Yeah, I'll go with Rollins actually.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I don't think either one of those is going to be wrong.
Yeah. If they're both right, then we have a real problem. Let's move on and talk about the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Again, whoever wins this, they get their pick about on the Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion. So right now, there's only 7 women announced. There's going to be another one, but we're literally like days out of the pay-per-view. They haven't announced who it's going to be. So barring it being a huge surprise like someone like Becky Lynch, I don't expect it to be anyone who can really come in and win. But given the list we have here of women, it's going to be Asuka versus Naomi versus Alexa Bliss versus Nikki Ash versus Liv Morgan versus Zelina Vega versus the newly added Natalya. So, Trevor, this was a very interesting build to this match because here's the thing. The Raw side, they kind of have had this figured out for weeks, but the SmackDown side, it's been a mess the way they've been doing this. First, Carmella was in there, then she wasn't, and then Liv Morgan won her way in there, but then she really didn't win, and then they gave it to her anyway, and now Natalya was added via tweet on like a Saturday. It's been a jumbled mess, the build of this women's Money in the Bank ladder match. What are your thoughts on that?
The way they're billing it is, I don't know. It's kind of a mishmash, like we said, a mess. And kind of trying to, I guess, throw it out of whack, kind of, sort of, to confuse fans. But it's not a bad card. It really isn't. Like, I mean, you got Asuka, Naomi, who is an amazing athlete. Asuka as well. Alexa Bliss, when she's not doing terrible promos, like
they're doing right now. Doll.
I hate that fucking doll. And again, for anyone watching, I do not think Alexa Bliss is terrible. I don't. I actually like Alexa Bliss a lot. I think Alexa Bliss is one of the most talented female wrestlers in, you know what? I'm sorry. I hate that term. Wrestlers.
Period.
In WWE. I apologize because I've said time and time again, I hate that crap. Woman, female. She's a wrestler, first and foremost. But I think Alexa Bliss is very talented, but I hate the way they're billing her. Nikki Ash, I also hate the way that what they're doing with her. Liv Morgan, very talented. They need to let her go and let her wrestle. Zelina Vega, I'm very interested in see what she does in this match. I loved her in NXT, like we talked about last week. I love this. Love that the fact that they brought her back. So I'm very anxious to see what she does in this Money in the Bank. And Natalya, again, another very talented wrestler, and I can't wait to see what she does. Now, my pick, I'll let you go through it first, and then we'll pick at the same time. There
you go. Yeah, you learn from my good wrestling knowledge. Learn from me. Here's what I will say about this. I think that there's really this is an interesting mix of wrestlers because there's like two obvious ones that I think are here, but but I think to people who haven't been paying attention to what's been going on, they might not be so obvious. To me, the two obvious people here are Liv Morgan and Zelina Vega. And look, let's actually get this part out of the way. I want to be clear. There's still one more person to come in. If it is Becky Lynch, if this is Becky Lynch making her return and she's in this, it has to be her. She has to win this, and she has to have that Money in the Bank contract. Like So if it is her, then that's my pick. Looking at the field we have right now, I am confident that it's going to be either Zelina Vega or Liv Morgan. The only reason I'll lean towards Zelina Vega is one because she's a heel.
Yeah.
And she's a heel that can cut really, really good promos. And with the Money in the Bank briefcase, I think that'll allow her to be used in a better way. That'll allow her to be used to her full extent. And it'll give her some traction and credibility, quite frankly, as a singles competitor. Because people are only used to seeing her as a manager with Andrade for the past few years. They weren't used to seeing wrestler Zelina Vega. So I think people are in for a huge surprise when they find out that she's great. So I think she's the more obvious pick. Liv Morgan would be an underdog for me, as in the whole story on SmackDown leading up to this with her has been that she's been trying to get into this match. And even though she wins, she's not in. She wins, she's not in. It's been an uphill climb for her. Pardon the pun, but I think that could be an underdog one. Everyone else, I don't see it. Alexa Bliss possibly. In which case,
that's the one I was gonna say.
It means possibly more.
I think she's not obvious, but she would be a pick in that top three to me. Like she, along with Vega and Liv Morgan, because I was leaning toward Vega honestly, but Alexa Bliss could be thrown in that mix.
Yeah, I think so too. I'll do final pick. I'll go with Zelina Vega. I think she's gonna win. She probably should win.
Yeah. Since we don't know who that other person is, I'm definitely going with Zelina Vega.
See, you're learning. See?
No, that's who I was going to pick from the get-go.
All right, fine. You're going first on the next one then.
Okay.
And speaking of the next one, let's move on and talk about the WWE Raw Tag Team Title match. Wow, I gave you a really easy one. So let's talk about it. The WWE Raw Tag Team titles will be on the line as AJ Styles and Amos will take on the Viking Raiders in a match for the aforementioned tag team titles. Trevor, what do you think of this match?
I think at this point they've ruined the Viking Raiders. I liked the Viking Raiders when they first came to WWE. I thought they were a great tag team, and should have held the belts a lot longer than they did. The way WWE and Raw goes, I think the obvious pick is not the Viking Raiders. And I don't even think this match is going to be that entertaining, honestly. Unfortunately, I would like to say it is going to be entertaining, but I don't really think it is. I like the chemistry of the Viking Raiders. I think they work well. And honestly, I think AJ and Omos work pretty well too. But I've watched their tag team matches in recent, and it just drags on. It's kind of boring. So I don't think it's going to be very interesting. But AJ and Omos wins. That's my pick.
They have to win. They're not putting the belt on the Viking Raiders again because they won it before. In case you didn't know, but Vince also doesn't care about the tag team division. So who knows? I just don't see them. Amos and AJ don't seem like they're breaking up anytime soon.
No.
So I think they're gonna keep this going at least until SummerSlam. So we'll see about that. Again, let's move on and talk about the real matches, the real title matches here. Didn't do that right. Let's talk about the real title matches here. Here we go. Bobby Lashley will defend his WWE World Championship against Kofi Kingston. This will be Kofi's first shot at the world title on a pay-per-view since he lost his title back to against Brock Lesnar back in 2019. So again, Trevor, what do you think about potentially Kofi Mania Part 2 here? Kofi Kingston challenging for a world title.
This should be a good match. It should be. On paper, both guys can work. Bobby's been looking a little flat here lately, though. It's just because he potentially fights the same person every fucking week. So like it's getting a little. I feel like his gimmick's getting a little flat. But we know Kofi can work. He for a long time he was a workhorse. I mean, especially being part of the New Day and them holding the tag teams as long as they had. I think it can be a good match, and I hope it is a good match.
Yeah, I think this is going to be fine. I think that the air has kind of been taken out of the whole Bobby Lashley title reign a little
Yeah,
bit.
I think
They never should have broken up the Hurt Business. They never should have done a lot of things that they've been doing with Bobby Lashley. But I mean, it's like they had him lose to Xavier Woods like right before a pay per view on the go home show before a pay per view. It it didn't and I know the logic behind it. They wanted to make it look like, oh well, now he's gonna be motivated and he's gonna destroy Kofi Kingston. He's gonna be more
right.
motivated to destroy him. But it's just it didn't work. It didn't work. There weren't any fans. Like the fake crowd noise doesn't work. Doesn't get heat. He destroyed like some tables on Raw at the end of the night and said back to business. Like come on, like
Right. Like what?
it didn't work. With that being said, of course he's gonna win because Lashley wins. Lol.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Of course, Lashley wins. I mean, I'm still wondering what they're gonna do with with especially if Drew McIntyre does win the Money in the Bank, which I'm pretty sure it's either like I say either him or Rollins. But if he does win the Money in the Bank, I wonder how they're gonna finagle that because I'm pretty sure who he's gonna challenge is Bobby Lashley.
It has to be. It has to be. That's been the whole storyline. It would make the most storyline sense for Drew to win and then cash in on Lashley. So if Kofi wins, I don't even know. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. There was very little logic on Raw going into this.
Oh hell no! There's no logic involved in it. There's no logic involved in Kofi getting a title shot. Even though take nothing away from Kofi, I love Kofi, but
hell, if that match was an eliminator, Xavier Woods should be the one to get the title shot. If we're being honest, because he beat the WWE champion. Xavier Woods beat the WWE champion. 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring, clean.
And I would love to see Xavier Woods go for another belt besides a tag team belt.
I wouldn't hate to see it. I'll say that. I wouldn't hate to see it.
I mean, maybe not the main belt.
I love Woods, but he needs to be built up. Anyone who goes for it needs to be built up, I think.
Yeah.
Speaking of being built up, what's being built up on Raw right now is one of the somehow least interesting storylines involving two of the best wrestlers in the world in Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. The Raw Women's Champion Rhea Ripley will defend her title against Charlotte Flair for what again seems to be the fifth time in the past few months. Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley were both doing the gimmick where they were I don't understand this. They're both heels, right? They are both heels.
Yeah.
And they're doing literally the same gimmick. They were both faking injuries, and like with a crutch on the same ankle. It makes no sense. I don't understand it. I don't care. I don't want to root for either of them. This is just terrible. Who's writing this shit?
Monkeys.
Trevor, what do you think about this match?
It's terrible. It's okay. So again, like you said, two of the best wrestlers in their division. One of the worst storylines I've seen in a long time, and that's saying something about WWE. Like, I don't care. Like, unfortunately, I really just don't care. Honestly, at this point, I don't care who wins it. I kind of feel like Charlotte Flair will win, but again, I don't think I honestly give a shit.
We've been saying Charlotte Flair is going to win for like the past 2 months, and it hasn't happened.
And she's lost every time. So, you know what? Rhea Ripley, fuck it. I don't care.
We need whoever wins the Money in the Bank needs to cash in to save us from this god-awful storyline. To save Charlotte and Rhea Ripley, especially. I feel bad for them. Like,
exactly. Their talent is going to waste, honestly.
Like, could you imagine if these segments took place in front of crowds? Oh, it would be so depressing. It would be so depressing because These aren't good segments. I don't think it's not the people involved. I want to make that abundantly clear. It's not the people involved. It is the way that they're being used. It makes no sense. They're both heels. They're not even like the type of heels that I want to, the anti-hero or whatever that you want to root for. This is not Stone Cold versus The Rock in 2001. It's not even built up like that. This is like nobody cares.
No.
Nobody cares.
Not a single solitary soul.
And apparently not the writers either. So make it better, please. Charlotte, sure. Oh my God! Please just put it to end. Just end this. Speaking of ending things, let's talk about the main event, hopefully, of this show. Roman Reigns will be defending his WWE Universal Championship against the Rated R superstar, the returning Edge. This will be Edge's first match since WrestleMania, where he was pinned by Roman Reigns, clean in the middle of the ring, along with Daniel Bryan. Trevor, what do you think about the build of this match? How Edge returned and the Glasgow smile that he's been using? What do you think about this?
I love the way he returned. It's very Edge-like. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that you would expect from Edge. I thought it was very mid 2000ish. You know, but it's a great story to rekindle that feud that they had, and I honestly can't wait to see them both in the ring like together. You know what I mean? Just them. Not saying that the WrestleMania match was bad, because it wasn't. It was amazing, but I can't wait to see them just in the ring, and see their chemistry and see how they work off each other. This should be the best match of the night. It should be. You have two guys who can really work. You have an amazing Roman Reigns, who's been the best he's ever been in his career right now. And you have an Edge, jacked up Edge, who, after coming off that injury, looks absolutely amazing. He hasn't missed too many steps. So I think this is going to be a very good match. Very interesting match.
I think so too. I would say that my big thing for this match is, how are the Usos going to be involved? Or potentially, how is Seth Rollins going to be involved? Because we saw the segment backstage where Seth Rollins and Edge were face-to-face. And Edge, kudos to SmackDown writers, Edge called out Seth Rollins for the 2014 thing that he did. Because remember, back in 2014, Rollins nearly stomped on Edge's neck. This is back when Edge was still injured and not clear to compete. So there's a history between these two that I like. I think it could play into this match. We know that Rollins likes to literally just start feuding with people that Roman just got done feuding with. That's what he's done like the last two times. It's going to be interesting. I think at the end of the day, Roman has to win, and he's going to win because you keep this going. Roman is doing a great job. Fans are coming back. We are going to witness Roman Reigns being legitimately cheered. This is a moment in time that will happen, and it's going to be great. So you keep Roman afloat. You keep him with the belt, and Edge, I think, was going to work into that feud with Rollins. And, yeah, I think that's going to, yeah.
I don't think you take the belt off him yet, even though, like, a lot of people do want to see, Edge with the belt, but I don't think you take it off him yet. I think you wait a little bit. And if you want to take it off him in like SummerSlam or something like that, that's one thing. But I don't think it's ready yet. I don't think it's time for it to happen. You know what I mean?
I don't think so either. Edge, and here's the thing: I don't think you need Edge to win the world title either. Or sorry, the Universal title, pal.
No, you don't have to.
You don't have to. He himself, as Edge, the Radar Superstar, is enough of a draw. He can make other people look good. So that's what I would say.
It would be one of those feel-good stories, though.
Like it would be, but I think that was the Rumble, wasn't it? That was the Rumble and the pop he got at Mania.
Well, yeah, but like he also got a belt taken off him that he never lost too. So like,
he got a shot back. He got a shot back. He lost. He got pinned.
Well,
pal.
Yes, but he never technically lost the belt.
Well, that belt is long gone. I think it was merged or something. I think Brock Lesnar probably has that belt somewhere. Probably. Also, have you seen that picture of Brock Lesnar recently?
Yeah, he looks
mohawk or sorry,
Kind of looks
mullet
like an
like
artsy douchebag.
ponytail Lesnar. He looks scarier, dude. He looks like a legitimate Viking. Dude scares the shit out of me.
Nah,
Please don't hurt me, Brock.
that's why I'm
Um,
saying he looks like an artsy douchebag
he
through
was
the
like, I don't
internet.
know, man. He might take that. He might take that to offense. He might not like
he
artsy
might,
douchebags.
he might, yeah.
Anyway, speaking of the internet, let's take a look at our chat that's been blowing up. What's up, guys? Cincy, of course, it's Cincy and Liam.
Of course.
Of course it is. What's up, guys? We hope you're doing well. Let's see what they're saying here. Hear me out. The Viking Raiders. No.
I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the Viking Raiders. I really do. I just don't think it's gonna happen.
AJ will lose it for them. Amos will snap. I don't think yet. Not yet. Not yet. Since he has AJ and Amos, of course. Vince the type to make Kofi win, then Brock come back and beats. Oh. You know what's funny? I could see that happening too. He would do that, and then they'd go right into a feud with Brock and Bobby Lashley, completely forgetting about Kofi. If he gets folded like a lawn chair after saying he'll snap Kofi in half, that'd be ironic. Oh, that would be funny. I'd love to see it happen, Cincy. I don't. Then Cincy says, "Oh my, I'm reading like a legitimate like text back and forth between these guys. I don't want either of them to have the championship. They annoy me. Bobby annoy me too, but Kofi doesn't." Says Liam. Liam also says, "I thought you were a New Day fan." Cincy then goes on to say, oh, now he's talking about Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. Just gives me the dead emoji. The injury gimmick sucks. Imagine Edge wins. Sadly, I think Roman will retain. I think Edge, though, well, and then since he finishes off by saying, well, duh, Roman is keeping the WWE alive, which is pretty true. And since he finishes off by saying, why did it put that in there? I didn't type that. Wow, I'm doing an impeccable job of reading these comments, boys. Keep them coming.
Doing a great job, man.
We love this. We love this. And you know what else we love, Trevor? When you guys hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Be sure you do that. Trevor, let's move on and talk about the WWE Thunderdome. The final WWE Thunderdome show has come and passed. The Thunderdome era, thank God, is done and over with. No more screens, no more fake crowd noise. Haha, Kevin Dunn. So it's going to be back to business as usual, back to fans. Trevor, excuse you. What is the legacy of the WWE Thunderdome going to be?
Yeah, it was really unprofessional. I'm sorry about that. So I think when you talk about like the pandemic, the years from now, and you talk about like things that happen in wrestling or happen in sports in general, I honestly think the Thunderdome will be mentioned. I mean, because they did something that they thought should be done. I mean, AEW was using some guests, and they're also using the talent around to make it look like people were there, and then WWE started doing that. Well,
WWE did both though. WWE had talent around the ring, and then they would pipe in fake crowd noise on top of that.
Yeah, they
which
did.
Doesn't work.
Was dumb as fuck. But no, I mean the Thunderdome for what it was, it was interesting. I won't say it revolutionized or no, it didn't do any of that, but it was interesting. And it was a nice little try, the good old college try, I would say. But the piping in the fake noise and all that, you clearly knew it was fake noise, and it had to be.
Yeah. It had to be. No one's microphone is that good. Not everyone's microphone can be that good. There's no way.
No, hell no. But no, I mean, people will remember it. I'm not sure if people will give a damn about it, but people will remember it.
Yeah, I mean, the WWE Thunderdome is going to be remembered as a dark time. One of the darkest times in wrestling history. I hated it. I was never a fan of the Thunderdome. It was, for me, look, is it better than what they did in the Performance Center for WrestleMania with nothing?
Absolutely.
Yes. That is not saying much because that fucking sucked. But if you're telling me that the WWE Thunderdome was the best solution they could have came up with, it's an emphatic lie, an empirical lie. You could have done a lot better. They were doing a lot better. I liked it when they had NXT performers behind the plexiglass. It worked
Yeah,
much better,
it looked
and it
worked way
worked.
better.
And look, the way AEW did it was also like I think they did it the best, which they had all of their talent that was booked on the shows there, and they made some ambiance with it. They made it work. They made the commentary better. They added Chris Jericho. You did things. The Thunderdome, all it did was show fans on the screen. And then they tell you when to cheer and when to boo. Kevin Dunn loved it. Kevin
Yeah,
Dunn
of course he
definitely
did.
loved it because Kevin Dunn loved to like make it his own thing. Make it like, oh, they're finally gonna cheer who I want to cheer, and like he
Right.
doesn't have to turn the dial down when the real crowd is booing them because they can't write shit television. It's. I'm so happy. I cannot. I'm so happy I don't have to look at another fucking screen. I'm so happy I don't have to look like yay, Jackson Riker, yeah. No, that's not. They're in for a rude. Here's one thing I will say: the legacy of the WWE Thunderdome will be that Kevin Dunn will be pissed. Like we are going to like we're gonna see how pissed he is because he's just gonna turn all the volume down
Well, you know he is.
when we go back to fans. Like it is going to be hilarious when someone like Jackson Riker comes out and he gets booed by everyone, just everyone. And then WWE realized, oh wow, we forgot we have to write for an audience now. That's gonna be a huge awakening for them. Trevor, going off of that, what are your favorite moments of the pandemic era now the pandemic era of wrestling is kind of coming past with the ending of the WWE Thunderdome?
The Thunderdome, or just in the
The
wrestling?
pandemic, the past year and a half since we went to no fans.
I thought the most genuine thing was when, and unfortunately, don't call me a mark, but it is AEW. When it just came out, and pretty much like when Cody Rhodes and I believe Kenny Omega and them came out and talked about what was going on. I thought that was the most genuine part of the whole thing. You know what I mean? It was genuine. It was kind of like a kind of a tearjerker to a degree. They acknowledged the people who had passed and how serious this was, but it was. I loved the formality for it and how just like they were they're just sitting there. They weren't their characters. They were real people at that point. You know what I mean? And expressing their real opinions and the real feelings and what was going on. And I thought that was cool. I thought that part of it was cool.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with you. I think, if we're talking about AEW, like, that the first show back with like some fans, like I think it was All Out or something. That was great. The Brody Lee Memorial is going to be
yes,
literally like no matter what, like it's going to be one of the best wrestling shows that's ever been put on, at least in my lifetime.
Yeah,
like it was perfect, just perfect. But if we're talking about WWE, one thing I'll miss or I guess like they only did it like a few times, but where it worked, I'll miss like the cinematic matches they did, namely the Firefly Funhouse
cool.
and the Boneyard match. Like I'm really gonna miss those.
Those were really cool. I definitely liked the Firefly Funhouse match. I loved how they went back in time, like they did time jumps or whatever with different eras. I thought that was cool. I thought that was really, really cool. The Boneyard match was really good too. I didn't really like the Louisiana Bayou match with Bray.
No,
and
nobody liked that. I'm a huge Bray Wyatt mark, and I didn't like that.
Yeah, and I did not like that match. It was terrible. But the other two was very good. But yeah, Bianca Belair winning the title.
I mean that one. Okay, I don't really count that as pandemic though, because like that was in front of people. You got, I mean,
yeah,
no, that was a great moment. It was we're having fun.
Yeah, you're right.
Having fun in front of 20,000 fans who are socially distanced. Not, oh my god,
not wearing a mask.
How did they did not understand the definition of social distancing at all. Let's go to the chat real quick. Liam says, Dunn loved being the puppet master. Yes, he did.
Oh, absolutely.
He is no more. I cannot wait to hear Kevin Dunn. I hope like we get one of those like moments where we can accidentally hear him just complaining. It's gonna be so funny. Since he edits says, not saying I was happy, but the Taker retirement thing and the Last Ride documentary was cool. It was. That
was pretty good too. Yeah.
And I like how they brought out like the legends for that too. I was a Taker fan before I was a New Day fan, says Cincy Edits. LOL. I think we all were. But yeah, no, Taker's retirement was a big thing. Let's continue this show, guys, and let's get into AEW because this week AEW is going to be presenting Fyter Fest Night 1. Actually, before we get into that, let me do a cheap plug real quick because I just want to remind you guys that after this show, we're going to be doing a special Patreon exclusive live show. There we'll be going over segments that we didn't have time for on this live show. It's going to be a little bit of an extra thing, about 30 minutes. We'll just do that. So if you can, again, you don't have to. You guys can head over to patreon.com/Real Take Sports. Select that $5 a month tier, and you get access to that and some exclusive content that we're working on. I'm hoping to get that out pretty soon, but we're going to do these overtime shows after the main show, so you'll be able to get that. Trevor, you okay?
Tired.
Dude, I'm tired. Yeah, we're all tired here. But, yeah, and again, if you can't, this show is always going to be free. It's all good. But check that out if you haven't already. Trevor, let's get into it. AEW Fyter Fest will be taking place live Wednesday night on TNT, as Tony Schiavone likes to say. It's going to be night 1 of the 2-night spectacular that is Fyter Fest, and the card is interesting because we got some big matches and some matches that I was really surprised to see, honestly, because I thought these would be more so pay-per-view matches, but we're gonna get into it. Let's look at the card.
Feels like they're not saving anything for night 2.
I mean, we'll cover night 2 eventually, but here's the card. Brian Cage will be taking on Ricky Starks for the the FTW World Title. Yaku Sasaki will be taking on Penelope Ford in a match. We also have Christian Cage against Matt Hardy to extend their feud. Big Money Matt Hardy, of course, going to be flanked by all of his cronies. Darby Allin will be taking on All Ego Ethan Page in a coffin match. And finally, it's going to be Jon Moxley defending his IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship against the Machine Gun, Carl Anderson. What a main event that's going to be. What a card it's going to be. Trevor, this is a regular Dynamite, by the way. This is not a pay-per-view.
No, it's not.
Just overall impressions of this card, impressions of Fyter Fest.
I love Fyter Fest. This is my, I think this is the second year for it, right? Or is this the third year for it, Fyter Fest?
No, this is the third year because they did it their first year as well.
That's right. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, I love Fyter Fest. It's so entertaining. But like I was saying a minute ago, like I feel like they're taking all the good matches, put it on night 1. I don't feel like there's anything left for night 2, but because this card is super stacked. I can't wait to watch any of these. I can't wait to go through these, honestly.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time, and let's go through it. Let's start with Brian Cage versus Ricky Starks for the FTW World Title. Preface this by saying that the FTW World Title is not recognized officially by AEW. It is like one of those. It's like this means personally. It's a personal thing between Ricky Starks and Brian Cage. Brian Cage has been feuding with his members of Team Taz, specifically Ricky Starks, over the past number of weeks over antics and being involved in his matches and just overall disagreements. Like we've seen this Brian Cage kind of blow up on Team Taz a few times over the past few months. So this is kind of the culmination of that. And Ricky Stark's been cutting some amazing promos, calling out Brian Cage's wife, saying the W in FTW stands for your wife, Brian. It's been a time and a half, and I'm excited to see this. Ricky Starks versus Brian Cage. What do you think about this match?
I read in a chat once recently, a couple months back, they were talking about, and I think I was watching one of these type videos. They were talking about how Ricky Starks reminds them of a broke Rocky Maivia when he was in Attitude Era, like when he first comes
broke
out.
Rocky Maivia,
and I'm like, what?
The dude had like what was The Rock always say? He's like, I went to WWE with like $5 in my pocket, like
right, like I mean,
how much broker can you get? That's
exactly. So they're both broke. Like what? I mean, but anyway, I I think I've mentioned on like one of the earlier shows and segments that we talked about Ricky Starks. I wasn't a big fan of him, but he's actually grown on me. His athletic ability is amazing. He and I feel like he's getting a lot better on the mic. I feel like he was always good on the mic, but he was never great. And I feel like he's getting that extra put. I feel like he's doing a lot better. Brian Cage, great talent. I enjoy Brian Cage. I think it's gonna be a very good match. I'm waiting to see how how their chemistry goes in the ring and how it pans out. But I think it's gonna be a good match. Damn good
I think
match.
so. Yeah, I think so too. I think Brian Cage is the machine. Brian Cage, as they call him, it's going to be a bit of a showcase for him, and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
the ability to showcase him, I think, on this level is going to be good. I'm glad they're putting the FTW title on the line, even though it's not like a recognized title. It means a lot to these two because that's been like Brian Cage's baby for such a long time, and Ricky Starks are trying to take it away from him. So again, there's stakes. Even if they're not official, there's stakes. And that makes professional wrestling so much better. I love this. Ricky Starks has been cutting so many good promos lately. I'm
really
going with Ricky Starks. I'm going with the upset here. Going with Ricky Starks. He's going to take the FTW world title away from Brian Cage. And Brian Cage is going to have to fight to get it back.
So I honestly, like you, I was listening to what you said, and I kind of I'm going to piggyback off that. I believe this is going to be a showcase for Brian Cage, but I believe it's going to be a showcase or coming out party for Ricky Starks as well. And with that being said, I have Ricky Starks winning the belt.
Okay. All right. See, you're learning from me. I love to see this. Let's move on. The next match is going to be Yaku Sasaki versus Penelope Ford. It's just a singles match, but we saw Yaku Sasaki in the women's eliminator. She's been on Dark Elevation a little bit. She's been with the company. She's been a bit of a standout. I like the work that she's been doing. Penelope Ford is like also she's been underutilized, I think, in the ring. They don't use her much. She's basically a valet at this point for her husband. And I think this is good for her, too, because it's kind of separating her from just being a manager into using her to her full ability, which is also a wrestler. Because she's also a pretty good wrestler. I think so. But Yuka Sasaki is, I think, very underrated. And I can't wait for her to get the showcase.
I think Sasaki, I've seen her before a couple times, and also the Woman Eliminator and indie promotions as well. I think, and Penelope Ford, a word I can't say. I think she's an amazing wrestler as well. I'm glad they're actually allowing her to start wrestling. Like and that's one thing about AEW. Like, and I'm glad that they're doing it. Like, you see people walk around like as valets and stuff like that, and then now they're actually using them as actual wrestlers, and I love that. I love that they're actually using all their talent, and this is going to be a good showcase for both wrestlers. I can't wait to see it.
It is going to be emotional, as everyone's favorite WWE cameo, Vinnie Jones, used to say. I think so too. I'm gonna pick Sakazaki. I'm sorry, I mispronounced her name.
Oh, yeah.
Sakazaki is going to win this match over Penelope Ford, in my opinion. Gonna be a good showcase for her. Move on. Let's talk about the big money match with Big Money Matt Hardy going to be taking on Christian Cage, a culmination of a feud that's 25 years in the making. They have played this up a lot. Matt Hardy and his group have been coming out and attacking Christian Cage ever since Double or Nothing. And we've seen Christian Cage cut some really emotional promos talking about the history between these two. I'm glad they're incorporating that as well, because, look, we know the history. Why not mention it?
Right.
I think this is going to be a great match. These are two veterans who know each other so well. I think it's going to make it even better, and people care.
Right. I agree. I totally agree. Like, the whole mentioning of the feud and go into deep description of the feud. But, yeah, the whole mention of the feud, the commentators mentioning it, and talking about it, Jim Ross, like, saying, I remember when this happened and that happened. It's really good. It's a great build-up, and that's why we watch wrestling. We watch wrestling for the stories to culminate in the ring, and in the actual match to tell a story. And this is definitely going to tell a story.
Absolutely, absolutely. That being said, I think I see. This is one that I'm not sure about, Trevor, because this could go either way. This legitimately could go either way because you might want to build this for longer. You might want to just do this as a one-off, but this has
Uh,
been a bit of a blood feud between these two,
it
right? Like,
has. I was kind of thinking the same thing. I'm kind of picking Matt though in this one.
why is
Because,
that?
only because, like you said, well, so you have two people that have legitimately wrestled before in other promotions, and you have a feud that's building. When you think about that feud, who has had the upper hand in this feud? If you look at it, Christian and Edge have kind of had the upper hand in the feud that the with the Hardy Boys. They've won more matches from what I remember.
Mm.
So you have Matt win the first one, and then you keep the feud going. Keep the feud going. You have something you can build on at All Out. You have something you can build on a future special Dynamite. Like maybe put it in a no holds barred match, or a special stipulation. You have something you can build on. And so far, AEW has been pretty good with that.
So you're going with Matt Hardy, just to be sure.
Yeah, I'm going with Matt with this one.
All right. That means
Yeah.
I'm going with Christian Cage because you're always wrong. So Christian Cage will win in this big money match against Big Money Matt.
Says the man that said that Jungle Boy was going to get turned on.
Hey, that's damn good booking, Tony Khan. You better pay attention to this show. Like, he always steals all my other ideas. He named the show after my backyard wrestling show. Like, I want cease and desist, Tony. Cease and fucking desist. Let's move on, Trevor, and talk about the coffin match. The big match right here between Darby Allin and All Ego Ethan Page. The build up to this match has been beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I'm glad they gave it that extra time to kind of simmer. They didn't really jump the gun and do it at Road Rager because I think that would have been a little too early. You wouldn't get the amazing shoot or the amazing promo that Ethan Page and Darby Allin cut in that interview segment with JR, where Ethan Page just talked about how much he resents Darby Allin. He resents that Darby Allin had to work like just a little bit to get just as far as Ethan Page, even though Ethan Page had been doing it for 12 years before him. He resents Darby Allin's success, and he wants to bury it. And he wants to bury him in a coffin on Fyter Fest Night 1. Trevor, I've loved the build-up. I love these two and their feud. You have been a fan of this feud for much longer than I have. Tell me about it. What's going to happen in this match? Talk about the build-up, too.
Can't wait. So the build up for this is, like you said, just amazing. Like, and one of the things that I was hoping they would do when they announced Ethan Page was even in AEW was that they would ignite that feud, reunite those two, and try to restart the feud that were going on years ago. It's those matches. If I'm not even sure you had a chance to honestly go back and watch them, Omer, but those matches are brutal. They're but they're so good. Like the chemistry between these two, they both sell everything. Like if you knew nothing about it, you would think they were really fighting. Like you know what I'm saying? Like it's that brutal. It's actually poetry in motion is the best way they have. I've heard commentators describe beautiful matches. But yeah, that's exactly what it is. And when you catch lightning in a bottle like that, you gotta see if it happens more than once. And so far, it's happened twice. So let's see if it can happen one more time. This match is, I'm looking forward to this match. I'm very looking forward to this match, and I can't wait to see how outrageous it gets.
I'm right there with you. I can't wait to see what happens. I think this match is. I'm so excited. I think this should be the main event. It's probably not going to be because I know Tony likes to put the title matches on last usually. But that being said, this is the match that I'm tuning in for the most. Darby Allin is probably the most over person, one of the most over people in AEW, which is saying a lot. Ethan Page, I think this is a big match for him, big test for him to see how much he can not just grab people's attention, but really show people that he's a fucking dog. He's a
Yes.
player in this
Yeah.
in this game, and I think this is gonna be a brutal match, like you said. Tony Khan has not shied away from showing brutality at these big moments on AEW Dynamite, and I think it's gonna be no different. The expectations are very high, though. I will say that the expectations are very high for this match, and AEW, as seldomly, they have done it a few times, disappointed in these moments.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
unfortunately.
don't think it's going to happen with this match. These two are just too good. They know each other too well. I'm picking Ethan Page because I think he made the challenge. He's the heel. And I think this would do a lot more for Ethan Page at this point than Darby Allin. Although I know AEW usually likes to go with the good guy in these situations. I'm going with Ethan Page because that's who should win.
I don't think that's a bad pick at all, actually. I think, honestly, I'm going to go with that one. Go with Ethan Page as well.
Yes.
Only,
Learn from
only because
the smart one, the intelligence, the professor.
Shut up. I think only because, like you said, this will do more for Ethan than it would do for Darby. But they could throw a curveball in there and let Darby win it. Because honestly, could you imagine a coffin drop on a coffin? Like, it'd be amazing.
Into the This is the finish. That's the finish. Darby goes for a coffin drop into the coffin. Ethan Page shuts the lid. Boom. Money. Tony, pay me. Let's move on and talk about Jon Moxley versus Carl Anderson. Moxley will be defending his IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship against the Machine Gun, Carl Anderson. This is going to be Carl Anderson's one of his first, I believe, singles match since leaving WWE. His first, at least, in AEW that I know of. So it's going to be it's a huge match for him. He was the IWGP champion before, or US champion before. That was like the belt he ran with when he was in the Bullet Club. So he's kind of looking to get his belt back. Moxley, we haven't seen him since the Young Bucks V-triggered him to death, basically, at Double or Nothing. So we're going to see him return, maybe reignite this feud with him and the Elite. What do you think about this match? There hasn't been too much of a build-up. There was just a promo on Dynamite the week before, but I don't really think you need much of a build-up with these two competitors, with the storyline they've already built, honestly, against the Elite and Moxley. What do you think about going into this match, though?
Honestly, dude, it's gonna be a good one. Again, like you said, I haven't seen Anderson fight singles competitive in like shit. It's been a while, right? Because they didn't even do singles over in Impact when they went to Impact.
No, they just won the Impact tag titles. Remember?
Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see because I always thought Carl could go. Such a great worker. But it's gonna be great to see this match. I honestly love watching Moxley wrestle. I think he's one of the better wrestlers on AEW. Carl Anderson is a good wrestler too. I think it's another one of those feuds that the story is gonna tell itself in the ring. Yeah, it's gonna be a good match. If I'm picking who's gonna win, I still say Moxley because I don't believe this belt is gonna change hands on an event that's not New Japan.
You really think so? You don't think they'll do that?
I mean, I'm pretty sure they. At this point, since Tony Khan is talking with them, maybe it's a good chance. But you have one of the most over wrestlers and that owns one of your belts. I mean, I love
fair. That's fair. You gotta leave Moxley as the big box office draw if you're New Japan. That makes sense. With that being said, Carl Anderson probably is gonna win anyway. Even if
you're probably right. You're probably right.
But because I mean, look, it's John fucking Moxley. Unless they screw him. That's the storyline they could do. If they screw Moxley, the Elite screw Moxley out of the belt, that has the potentiality to maybe lead up to a big match between Moxley and Anderson at a pay-per-view for New Japan. That's possible.
Right. I mean, that makes perfect sense, yeah.
That would make perfect sense. And look, that would create an even bigger mess, because think about this, Trevor. In 2021, this match is so special. We have an AEW competitor, Jon Moxley, defending a New Japan belt against an Impact Wrestling competitor.
Right.
At an AEW TV show. What? Like, if you had told me this like a few years ago, I would never have believed that this could be true.
No, I would never believe
it is just insanity that this is happening. That all being said, Moxley is probably going to win. Think you keep him as a champ. You might even see him kind of take out the Elite a little bit, get some help from Penta and Eddie Kingston as well. So that's at least what I think.
Yeah, I honestly believe that Moxley's going to keep the belt. They could, like you said, they could throw a wrench in there and the All Elite come down and screw Mox out of the title. I mean, but as long as Eddie Kingston and the boys are in the back, he still has a fighting chance. So there's a lot that can factor into that.
Absolutely. I think this Fyter Fest is going to be one hell of a show. I'm so excited. Like these AEW knows how to put together a card. What a card this is. Like, it's amazing.
Dude, it is just a Dynamite. Like you said, it's not even a pay-per-view. It's a Dynamite.
Like, it's going to be crazy. I love Fyter Fest. And we got 2 nights. two nights, double the fun, maga. Let's move on, guys. Remember, if you haven't already, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Wait, the chat was blowing up earlier. I have to say this. Cincy Edits and Liam were saying that we need to have a puppy pumpkin derby. Pumpkin pup derby. Like the Finn Balor pumpkin. Oh, that would be amazing booking. Book that, Tony. Listen to me. Book that.
We want to see that.
Liam also thinks Moxley will retain. It definitely will.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely will retain. It would only make sense for Mox to retain.
Oh yeah.
Moving on though, let's talk about this. Last week we saw the AEW debut of Malachi Black, the artist formerly known as Alistair. And boy, Trevor, did he make an impact. The lights went off in the arena. The lights went out in the head of Arn Anderson as he received a black mass kick by the debuting, almost called him Alistair, Malachi Black. Cody comes down to the defense of his manager and also gets a kick for his trouble. Malachi Black has arrived and had made a huge statement in All Elite Wrestling right off the bat. He has shown that he is not afraid. He's got this gruesome bruise and just laceration on his right eye, shades to him getting his eye poked out by Buddy Murphy back in the day.
Yeah.
So love keeping the kayfabe alive. We love that, keeping the story going. And you might ask yourself, though, why is Malachi Black in AEW so soon? I thought he was released by WWE, which means he has a 90-day non-compete. Normally, you would be right. But reports indicate that Black received only a 30-day non-compete instead of a 90-day non-compete because, get this, Trevor, when he was called up from NXT competitors only have a 30-day no-compete clause. But when he was called up from NXT, they never updated his contract.
Oh, okay. Because I was wondering that, too. I really was wondering like how that he was able to do that.
Only WWE could botch a release like this. Like, come on. Like, they've done 40 of them, and they still managed to fuck it up. But look, Malachi Black, though, debuting in AEW. What does Malachi Black and AEW mean for them? Are we finally going to get this character that Alistair Black and the fans have wanted to see for such a long time?
Dude, I got to be honest. Like, again, yes, AEW has a lot of talent, but they'd be damn right stupid if they didn't use this kid. And from what I've seen, Tony ain't too stupid. This is big for him. And like, I remember us talking about this, like, when he got released, that him being AEW would probably be amazing. And like that pop he got when those lights came on, dude. Oh man. Like I felt so happy for him. I felt so happy for him. Like, cause like, it seemed like he was really humbled and really like downtrodden and didn't understand exactly why he was released when he was released. I mean, and no one understood, honestly. I mean, if we didn't understand, I'm pretty sure he didn't understand. Like it was just like so sad because they were starting a new program with him, repackaging, starting a new program with him, and just let him go. I think that was what he needed, and he literally look at the pictures, and if you look at his Instagram and everything, he looks happy, and I honestly believe this is going to be a big step for him.
I agree. And you know what I love the most about this? One, it was like a genuine surprise. The way they built it up was amazing.
Yeah,
In the Cody match earlier in the night, they had the lights just go off, and then JR was like, "Oh well, there's storms in the area, so we might have a
yeah,
power outage." So it was like played off as nothing, and then the lights go out a second time, so everyone thinks it's like, "Oh, the storm again." But then it's Aleister Black appearing the second time. That was amazing. That was good booking there. Loved that little tidbit right there, and look, I also love what Aleister Black. He's building like this story behind this backstory for this character from Malachi Black because
right.
he said since that Aleister Black, the character he played in WWE, was the devil with amnesia. So now we are literally seeing the devil in Malachi Black debut in AEW, and he looks like he's out for blood right now.
It does.
And
Definitely
like
does.
the laceration on his eye, just it looks gruesome. We're going to get this character that he talked about when he was released from WWE. He wanted to get into this character in WWE. WWE will only let him go so far, but I feel like now, in AEW, which is a more creatively free place, he's going to be able to see this, and we're going to be able to see it through. That's gonna be amazing. I can't wait for it, man. Like I'm excited. I'm so excited because like this is like what I love. The backstory, the like, a little bit of nerdiness thrown in there, like it makes you
Absolutely.
care a little more, honestly.
It really does. Like, I mean, and like, how can you not like the guy? You know what I mean? Like, he's it from. I mean, I've never, unfortunately, personally met him, but he seems just from every promo, every time he talks, he's such a nice guy. And people like that, you always wish the best for. And I'm glad he's finally get that chance to work on this character, to build more of this character. I can't wait to see how it evolves because he could be I mean, you could put him in anywhere. He could be a perfect opponent for Miro.
Oh my God! You could have the former Rusev versus the former Aleister Black, Miro versus Black. Book it like that's like there's so many dream matches you could have though. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not just
really.
that you could even do rematches of him and Andrade.
Yeah.
We could finally get the Aleister Black Kenny Omega feud. You
Oh, that'd
could
be
do
great. That'd be a good one.
you could do so much. Darby Allin, of course, is like the first person you go to. As far as that feud, because they're kind of dark characters. That's like the natural inclination right there.
He may not fit with the overall like um, road that they're taking, but could you imagine he was the new leader of the Dark Order?
Boys, Liam, Cincy, you might be outbooked on this one. I think we
Like,
just found a new head booker. That was amazing.
I'm just sitting here thinking about it. We're talking about it, like, because there have been rumor mill going about that there might be a kind of a repackaging of the Dark Order, and they might have a new leader coming soon. And right after that, honestly, that's when right after I heard that rumor, that's when my Malachi Black came in. So I mean, he's a lot. I mean, I'm not sure how dark he's going to go with this character, so I
Oh,
don't know.
he's gonna go pretty dark. He's talked about this before. He plans to go very dark with this
Okay,
character. Yeah,
okay.
this is
So it might be too dark for the way the Dark Order is going. So, but you
who
don't
knows,
know.
man. The devil needs his demons, and if there's anyone who's going to be able to make it make sense, it is the wonderfully twisted mind of Tommy and Tony Khan
Absolutely.
combined. Like that, they're gonna make
And
it
Evil
work.
Uno and all those guys would
Oh my
work
God.
perfectly
Look,
together.
look, they'll make it work. Trust me, they'll
Yeah,
make it work. Let's go to the chat because they have these guys are funny. Um,
yeah.
so Malachi Black is so cool, says Liam. Cincy says, sorry. Then here we go. Liam has a fantasy booking right here. At the end of Fighter Fest, you just hear a roar, and then a bald Braun Strowman runs onto the scene named Humpty Dumpty. They call him Humpty Dumpty. Okay, this is interesting. Since he replied saying that'll be godly, Liam then goes on to say, then there's a Moxley versus Dumpty feud, and then when I said that you should be the head booker, he says, "Don't challenge us," in all caps. He's very protective. And since he's adding on, they're both having a moan right now. It's like he has one idea and he becomes head booker. This business is gonna fail. Oh, you guys keep me going.
I love these guys, dude. Oh, I absolutely love you too.
Love y'all, guys. Love y'all. Please keep it going. You guys are the head bookers. Don't worry. I wouldn't let this guy handle booking. He can't.
No, I'm the trainer. I'm good.
He's trainer. Yeah. Who are you training? Let's move on, Trevor, and let's talk about the Hangman Adam Page. Oh, wait. Got to change that. Actually, yeah, but before we get to the Hangman Adam Page, guys, remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. That like button, smash that thing so you help out the algorithm, help our page out, grow. Also, patreon.com/realtakesports. Check it out. Let's continue this and let's talk about the Hangman Adam Page, Trevor. So... What are you laughing at?
The chats.
Oh, the chats. They're having fun, Michael. Let's talk about it. Hangman Adam Page is currently in a bit of a feud for Kenny Omega and the AEW World Title, or at least it looks like that's what's going to happen. Page is currently the number one ranked competitor in AEW, which makes him naturally the number one contender. And we know these two have a history. Kenny Omega and Adam Page were once tag team champions together. I believe one of the first AEW tag team champions. Yeah. Then they lost it. They broke up. They both went their separate ways. Kenny became a champion. And Page kind of went to the wayside a little bit. We've seen him and his drinking get a little excessive. They played that into the storyline. He's been alienated by all of his friends, including the Elite, including Omega. And he's only found solace in the Dark Order. So I like where this has been going over the past few months. This has been one of the best slow burns in pro wrestling because if you go into it, there's so much there. There's Page battling this crippling depression of being alienated from his friends. You see his drinking gets a lot heavier. You see that the pressure of this stardom is getting to him. And then now you're seeing him finally rise up to the moment. The Dark Order comes out and tells him that you, Adam Page, need to do this. You need to go call out Kenny Omega because you're that damn good. And that's what I loved about this story. That's what I loved about this whole thing. And that's why we're talking about it. Trevor, tell me in your words, what have you thought about the slow burn? And why is Adam Page the man to beat Kenny Omega?
So honestly, like you talk about how it's a slow burn, and it's a slow burn since the very conception of the AEW World Title. Like he fought Jericho for the belt, right? Lost it. Never challenged for it again after that, right? He wins the tag team champions with his friends, with his comrades, right? He has a falling out with Kenny Omega. He doesn't totally agree with everything Kenny is standing for. FTR is getting in his head, changing his views, changing his opinions. He no longer is friends with the Young Bucks. No longer friends with Kenny Omega. Him and Kenny Omega have a match in the tournament. Kenny wins, right? So Kenny has a win over him. So then he goes in this depression. The Dark Order want him to be one of them. Like he doesn't want to be them. And then you see, slight nods where like Kenny is going to the top and he's just dropping down by the wayside, slower and slower. And again, his drinking is increasing and things like that. And you see this growing story of his depression and his just feeling down on himself is growing and growing. All of a sudden, Kenny is top dog. He's beating everybody. He has nobody to wrestle. He's beating everybody. And what did the Dark Order do? Because he is their friend. They step up for him. honestly, that is one, like you said, that's one of the best builds. And it took a minute, but I'm fine with it because it was never a boring story. Not one part of it was boring. It was very interesting. And honestly, the way they're building this, honestly, like you said, he is going to be whenever they do it. I'm almost positive he's going to be the dude, the guy that beats Kenny Omega.
The story it would be from All Out 2019 being so close to beating Chris Jericho, and then 2 years later, after being brought to the heights of almost winning the belt, the heights of being the tag team champions, to the depths of being alienated by everyone he loved, to finally get over the hump and realize that he is the man, that he is the franchise, that he is what we thought he was. To do that 2 years later would be honestly one of the best long-term storylines in pro wrestling history.
It would
Adam,
be. Definitely
and
would be.
look, people ask like, "Oh well, Adam Page, what does he do? He doesn't cut promos." Adam Page is one. He doesn't need to cut promos. He's a badass. Like he gets the biggest pop out of anyone in AEW nowadays. Like it's him and Moxley right up there. And once they return to fans, because like next week at Fighter Fest, and then the weeks after, we're gonna hear from Adam Page, and that's gonna be full of like an actual arena of fans. The Miami show was kind of like in an amphitheater too, which was like smaller, but this is going to be in front of like 5,000-6,000 fans. So you're gonna hear the pop. You're gonna hear as the fans get louder and more. You're gonna hear them get louder, and they're gonna cheer him on, and it's going to be great because people love and care about the Hangman Adam Page. And look, if you don't love his promos, you don't love the fact that he gets a pop, the buckshot lariat might be the best finishing move in wrestling right now. As far as the most impressive looking, I just think it's the coolest move there is. Just the way he does that flip over the rope right into a lariat, it's just so amazing, so crisp every time. And the build up there is always great. It's kind of like when Brian would hit the running knee and you'd have the build up there, but it's just such a cooler move.
It's a very cool move, but what makes it even cooler is the fact that like, moves that take like no prep time to do are always cool, but the fact that he actually literally set up for this and then he still hits you with it and you're surprised that he hits you with it, makes it even more amazing. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things that's so impactful. And yeah, I mean, dude, he's money. His gimmick is money. Everything he's doing right now is so up there.
He's just really fucking cool. He's just really fucking cool. And I'll say it. I've said it before, and I will 100% say it with total certainty. Hangman Adam Page will be the one to kick out of the of Kenny Omega's finishing move. I promise you that. He will be the one to kick out of Omega's finishing move. No one has done it since Kota Ibushi did it back in the day. What's the relation there? Kota Ibushi also used to be Kenny Omega's tag team partner in New Japan. Yep. Check out that history, kids. But I'm very excited to see that, Trevor.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a good one whenever they lock up.
Totally. It's gonna be great. Let's keep it going here, guys. If you haven't already, remember to like, share, subscribe. Also, guys, I was kidding. I'm not gonna fire you in the chat. They're threatening to go to What Culture. They're like, chill out, guys. It's a joke. Like, yes, this is like the first part of my heel turn, by the way. I just want you to know I will turn heel. It's going to happen. Like I'm just an evil fuck. Anyway, let's move on, Trevor, and let's talk about our last AEW segment in this official show, and that is AEW All Out. AEW All Out is officially sold out. The pre-sale tickets sold out literally immediately, like literally within minutes. And then when the rest of the tickets went on sale, they sold out very shortly after, same day. All Out is sold out. 10,000 people will pack the Hoffman Estates, the Now Arena, I believe it's called. And it's going to be one hell of a show. The fans are going to be rabid. You know that there's passion behind this product. Trevor, what does it show that even after this pandemic, that AEW is still able to sell out 10,000 people arenas almost instantly?
I'm trying to figure out the analogy that I want to use for this. In my opinion, it's still the fact that they still have that new car smell. If it makes mistake,
Mm.
it makes any sense. You know what I mean? They're still the new kid on the block. That whole pandemic in 2020 wiped out the fact that they were able to draw anyone to an actual live show because no one could go anywhere, of course. But like they had their live shows in 2019. You know, they were packing people in. Their product was budding. That it was growing. Now through the pandemic, they picked up so many names. They have done so many things in pro wrestling. Like, hey, you know, this might be interesting to see in person. Like, we haven't seen it in person. We've seen WWE. We've seen this. We've seen that. Let's go check out their product now since there are fans there, and so many people wanting to see it, wanting to see what this promotion is all about, and haven't been able to see it because 2020 was a wash. There you go. It sold out in minutes because people are that interested to see the new kid on the block.
It is so important for AEW in their future that this show sold out in almost the exact same fashion that the shows like previous before the pandemic would sell out in almost instantaneously.
Right.
It shows that there's passion behind the product, there's interest in the product, and the growth of the product has not stagnated, which is the most important thing if you're a new wrestling company. And it's for a great reason because AEW have been putting on the best weekly show in Dynamite that there is in wrestling right now. They've been putting out some of the best matches, the best pay-per-views. And they've been showing consistent growth in their TV rankings, and they've been showing consistent growth as far as being able to run the same territory, the same arena for a year and still draw people. It's a huge deal, and they were able to do that. Like, this is a weekly show that they do every single Wednesday night. Like, it's not like, like, and this is like the same. This is Jacksonville. This isn't like they're doing it in New York where there's like 8 million people who can come. No, this is like Jacksonville. This isn't like a huge tourist destination too. Also, it's not like the Jags are playing. Like, this is the fact that they did this. It's a testament to the business that Tony Khan runs. It's also a testament to these performers and the way they go out there and execute their visions. It is AEW, the ceiling, the ceiling, like that glass ceiling or whatever, the whatever like people think their ceiling is, when they go back to live fans and live attendance, they're going to completely shatter and break that ceiling because this like I'm telling you, completely from a business sense, AEW, the fact that they were able to survive this pandemic and like have at least the same, if not more, traction than they had before, it's a big freaking deal. And if I'm WWE, look, the ratings for Raw are bad. They're in the toilet. Last week, I believe they had they had record low ratings on July 4th. Okay, yeah, so it's a July 4th show. Okay, the week before, it was even lower. They have had low ratings, like sub 1 million ratings. Like, it has been really, really bad for them. And look, it's on a different night. It's a different audience, but it's still wrestling. And if AEW, because they're close, they're not that far away. If they get to 1.5 million and Raw is still doing sub 200 or sub 2 million, that's a problem for WWE. That's a huge problem because this new rinky-dink piss-ant promotion, as Triple H like to call it, they're doing almost as good as your A show. Yeah. That's a problem if you're WWE. That's a huge problem.
Definitely is. I mean, it's in their live shows that they're selling tickets to aren't even selling out like that. They're not even selling that well from what I remember looking at. And AEW, like you said, the piss poor promotion is selling out. So I mean, you got something to think about, guys. You definitely do.
Definitely do. Also, Trevor, you have something to think about. Liam just said Trevor has more fans in his room than WWE has fans in the Thunderdome.
He's probably accurate.
He's so true. He's so true. Excuse me. Let's kind of stick with AEW for a second. There's another thing about All Out that I wanted to discuss, and it has to do with the way that they've kind of booked the arena. AEW has booked the Now Arena, the same arena in Chicago, for Dynamite, Rampage and All Out all in the same week. They're doing like a little, I guess, mini WrestleMania. I'm sure there's also going to be like an AEW Fan Fest in Chicago the
Yeah.
same week. What do you think about them running the exact same arena the entire week leading up to the event? Is that smart of them to kind of consolidate the market, or do you think that might lead to like a little bit of fatigue over the week?
I mean, it could definitely get tiresome, definitely, for the promotion and for people, people seeing it as well. But also, it also gives them more exposure because if they do, which I think they're going to do, like an all fan access thing, it gets them more time to meet these wrestlers that they haven't had a chance to meet. They got new guys like Tony N, like the Andrade guys, guys that they didn't get a chance to meet, but during the pandemic. So it also gives them a chance to meet the new faces and for them to do a well needed PR. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But it also can be looked at as a smart move too.
Interesting. So here's the thing. The way I see it is Rampage. Rampage. I get doing in the same arena because it's on a Friday. And your show is going to be on a Sunday. Keep it in the same ballpark. Get some excitement. I think stretching it out to Wednesday, for me, I mean, again, I could be wrong.
It could be fatigue. Yeah,
I think stretching it out to Wednesday, you might be expecting, I think, maybe too much of the fans. Although not everyone who's going to be coming into the show, I guess, is going to be coming in for that Dynamite too. You could find fans in Chicago because Chicago is a wrestling town. I get that. I just think expecting that of fans, though, to stay that long is a little too much. Like, WWE does it once a year for WrestleMania Access, and that is even, like, just 3 days of that is tiresome. And you got to also factor in people taking off for work, and things like that. So it's it's one of those things. The logical side of me also says, like, how much of this is also they've been booking arenas, like, and they're trying to book arenas, and maybe this week they couldn't find one, so they're like, all right, let's just do it in the same arena we're doing Dynamite or All Out. That makes sense too. And I'm not hating on it. Let me be clear, I'm not hating on it. I just think that it could be trouble. I hope they don't do this for like all of their big shows, because that's exactly when that's I think you're expecting way too much from your fans. Rampage again, I think it's fine, but I don't think you do it. I think you give more markets an opportunity to see your product, see bigger shows. The go home show is a big show. You give more markets the opportunity to see them.
Absolutely, I totally agree. I mean, like I said, it could possibly turn out to be somewhat tiresome, and the fans could get tired of it. But also, it could do some good for it too. But I piggybacking off what you said, I hope they don't do it for every big show. Because doing that for every big show is really gonna like run it into the ground, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, you will not catch us at Full Gear in St. Louis for like 7 days. Got me messed up, Tony Khan. I'm not doing that.
Oh no, I'll be there for a day.
I'll be there for a day. Hey, you might get me to stay for Rampage. You might, maybe. If that hotel is cheap. But we'll see about that. Guys, remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Trevor, let's switch gears real quick and talk about your boy and mine, the former fucking world champ. Let's talk about it. This weekend at UFC 264, Dustin Poirier faced off against Conor McGregor in a very much anticipated fight between these two, the third fight between these two. It was split before, and the rubber match went to Poirier after McGregor lost via TKO after a doctor's stoppage after he snapped his leg and he broke his leg. Dustin Poirier won. You could argue that the fight was pretty even, maybe a little edge to Conor when this happened, but it was only one round in, so we'll never know. And again, look, Conor, you lost. At the end of the day, you lost. TKO, you broke your ankle. That's part of the game. It happens. You lost. And after the bout, Dustin Poirier made it very clear that he has no respect for Conor McGregor, or broken ankle or not. citing back the facts that Conor McGregor called him out in very disrespectful ways, called his friends out in very disrespectful ways, called his wife out, which he went on to do later. We'll talk about that. But there's no respect between these two guys. McGregor, while having a broken ankle on the ground, as much as I don't like this guy, having a broken ankle, he's on the ground and he's cutting a promo. That's immediate. There's one gear for McGregor and it's nuclear, and that's so entertaining to me. But he's cutting this promo saying your wife is in me DMs he was in rare form, but Poirier won. He was a better man. Trevor, did Conor McGregor get what he deserved in this fight?
You know, a lot of analysts are talking about this. Have been talking about this. Daniel Cormier has been going off saying just the same thing, and you can kind of think that way, because like he has been. This Conor was way different than the Conor he was when it was in the second fight. He was very respectful, very tame, or whatever. And some might argue that before he got knocked out in that second round, the first fight, the second fight, he actually was winning the fight until then. And I can't totally disagree. I thought that first round went to him in that second fight, and in that second fight, that second round he was winning pretty, not handedly, but it was going back and forth. I thought could have been a toss-up until he gassed out and got knocked out. Then he switched gears back to the disrespectful, shit-talking Conor McGregor, which is somewhat entertaining, right? But when you think about some of the things he says, like he disrespects the man's wife, he disrespects people in his family or whatever, and Poirier, stand-up guy. And don't get me wrong, I do like Dustin Poirier. My family's from Louisiana. He's a Lafayette boy. I definitely like Poirier. And honestly, in these last two fights, he was the better man. To say he deserved it, maybe he did. Karma bit him in the ass, and and he broke his ankle. Like, I mean, it's the sport. It's the sport he's in. When you check a kick, you got to make sure when you check a kick, sometimes it comes back broken. Anderson Silva. And Anderson Silva definitely almost deserved that.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to quote Dustin Poirier on this one. Karma's not a bitch. It's a mirror. And that mirror, the reflection from that mirror came back and bit Conor McGregor right on the ass, or should I say the ankle. And look, I appreciate Conor McGregor. He is one of the best fighters in the world, or at least he was for a while. He's on a bit of a downturn recently. He's lost a few fights, but he was one of the best fighters in the world. Still one of the most talented fighters in the world. But Trevor, the thing is, his promos usually great. He's charismatic. He's good for the sport. The thing is, a lot of times he goes for low-hanging fruit. And that's what people don't like. He goes for low-hanging fruit, and he crosses a line into complete disrespect for your opponent, above what just booking a fight or building up a fight is.
Right.
He called Khabib Nurmagomedov and his friends terrorists. He was referring to them as terrorists, and he knows Khabib is Muslim. He doesn't drink. He was basically throwing alcohol in his face at a press conference. Yep. Disrespect. It's crossing a line. Low-hanging fruit type of disrespect. Yeah, you want to be hated. Yeah, you want to be all this. At least ask the guy beforehand when you do this, because we know half of this is a work. Like the UFC takes a lot of cues from wrestling. It's half of it's a work, which is exactly why we're talking about it. Like, so to say that again, Poirier, he said he was right. He shouldn't have given McGregor any respect, and McGregor proved it by going after his wife afterwards. And again, is it funny sometimes when McGregor says, of course it is, because he's a charismatic dude. I'm going to repeat it. He's a charismatic dude, one of the best fighters in the world, but that doesn't give him the excuse of not being disrespectful. Of course he is, and he crosses the line too much. And when that happens, karma comes back and bites you. When that happens, you don't get respect back from your competitors. And that's why Conor McGregor deserved what he got in this fight.
Now, I mean, as a person that enjoys sports, I didn't like seeing the fact that he broke his ankle. I didn't.
Okay, yeah. Let me be clear. I'm talking about the fact that he lost the fight. I want to be
Right.
crystal clear.
But
I don't
he
want Conor McGregor to
only
break his
lost.
ankle. That is a debilitating injury that some people don't come back from. That's not what I want. I was talking strictly about losing the fight.
But he only lost the fight because he broke his ankle. Like, I mean, you don't know what would have happened. You know what I mean? You don't know. The doctor stopped it because he couldn't stand. But the only reason he lost this fight, yes, they were giving each other as good as he's getting. And I mean, did Poirier, I think, win the first round? Yes, I think depending on how you look at it, you could have judged it either way, honestly. But the only reason Conor lost this fight because he broke his ankle. Let's just be honest. He broke his ankle.
You're right.
He couldn't continue.
But that's part of the game. That's part of
it
the
is exactly. It is. It's part of the rule. You can't fight. You lose the fight. I mean, that's just how it goes. But I would want to see someone. I would want to see him if he comes back, and I hope he does. I hope it's not permanent. If he comes back, I'd like to see him fight somebody else before he goes back to Poirier, and I would like to see Poirier fight someone else if he does fight, because Dana White said there probably will be a number 4. So I would like to see Poirier move on his career, fight someone else.
Well, he will. He's going to fight for the title next, and then the match after that is going to be the rematch with McGregor. So McGregor's just going to get a title. Okay, cool. Whatever. Cool.
Did you hear that? Did you hear what your boy Kobe Covington's been up to lately, though?
Oh, I did not. What has Kobe Covington been up to?
So, there was a tweet that went out that involved let me check my sources here, because I just saw it the other day, and that involved a fighter and a fighter's wife.
Of course it did. Of course, Kobe Covington. No talent hack. Kobe Covington is saying this shit.
And it was Dustin Poirier's wife. In his UFC prediction video, he pretty much said that Poirier's wife was pretty much in his DMs, and also he's been, making
So he's just copying Conor? He's doing it? Oh my god, this dude is such a loser. What a geek. What a loser.
So this is even before the fight started, though. This was his prediction. So he takes a video on Twitter of a picture of him with his shirt coat open in his underwear with Poirier's wife's picture on his drawers.
What is this dude? He literally stole Trump's gimmick, and now he's stealing McGregor's gimmick? Like, he's so unoriginal. He has not an original thought in this dude's brain. Like, President Trump, and then like, Conor McGregor, your wife stuff. Doofus. Just stick to UFC if you can't cut a promo, dude. Just stick to the fighting. You're good at that. You're not good.
I just read the chats. Yeah. They called me a Conor fanboy.
You are a Conor fanboy. You know who you're not a fanboy of? Kobe Covington. No talent hack Kobe Covington.
I definitely am a fan of UFC, and I do like Conor McGregor. But truth, like I just said, Dustin Poirier, he's from my family's hometown. Like, he's from Louisiana. I do like Poirier. I do.
Also, for all these people in the chat, for Liam and Cincy acting like, you're like, I thought this was a wrestling talk show. Oh, why are you guys talking about this? Now, I'll tell you right now why we're talking about this, because Trevor, what do you think? Conor McGregor, look at me. Conor McGregor, McGregor has now lost the past few fights he's been in. Is this the first step, do you think, towards McGregor maybe switching into wrestling, possibly doing a run in WWE? We've seen other people do it, step into the ring. We've seen Rousey, Lesnar, other people do it. Do you think that could be a possibility, or at least down the line?
I mean, maybe. I mean, he is a walking, talking, like, promo. The man cuts so many promos. It's ridiculous. Like, and like you said, he's so smooth with it, right? But I mean, I could see him doing a stint in WWE or something like that. Yeah, I could see that. But the thing is, how much are you willing to pay him That with Connor, that's pretty much the kicker. Like, what are you willing to pay me? Are you going to pay me, or what are you going to do? But I don't think Connor. I like one of our buddies in the chat. I don't think he's going to wrestle though. I really don't. He could.
I think he is. I think he's going to do it eventually. He's always been a fan of wrestling. Vince is going to pay him. He's going to pay him because he knows Connor will draw money, which he will. And I think it might not be for a year, might not be for 2 years, might not be for 3, but eventually at WrestleMania, I think you can book this before WrestleMania 40. Conor McGregor will have wrestled a match in WWE.
It's possible. It's very possible.
I think it's likely. He's always. Here's the thing. The reason why I say it is Conor McGregor, after he's done fighting, he's gonna want to make money still. And what better way to make money than taking advantage of your charisma on the mic? He's gonna go to WWE, cut some amazing promos. They're gonna pay him like $1 million per appearance to do it, and he's going to he's gonna very great because he loves wrestling too. That's the other thing. He likes wrestling, even though he talks about how much it's faking, like he's faking all that stuff. Right. But he grew up a wrestling fan. Like that's obvious. Yeah. Listen to his promos, and even listen to him talking about wrestling. He used to love it. He does the Vince McMahon walk down to the aisle. That's the McGregor walk. It's the Vince walk. So I could see it happening totally.
Yeah, it could happen. I mean, if he heals properly and everything, it could happen. I guess.
Yeah, and again, I hope he heals properly. I'm just saying he deserved to lose the fight. That's all I'm saying.
He did. He definitely did. he definitely did. I called that one when my buddies was asking me about the fight. I actually made some money off him losing.
Good stuff. We also, by the way, right now we have 6 viewers and 9 likes. Nice.
There we go.
Nice. Let's move on. Trevor. I think it's time.
Is it time?
I think it's time.
Saturday.
Is this like that? This is another Adult Swim show. You ever watch Black Dynamite?
I did, actually.
What a show that was. That was an amazing show.
Did you ever watch the movie that it came from?
Yeah. It's like Anaconda Malt Liquor gives you a little Richard. Yeah, I've seen that movie. What a movie. If you guys haven't seen Black Dynamite, go check out that movie on Netflix. It's amazing. Anyway. Trevor, let's move on. Talk about this week in wrestling history. This week in wrestling history, in 1984, Black Saturday, it is what kicked off the series of events that would lead to the WWE versus WCW war and Vince McMahon's consolidation of the wrestling business. In 1984, much like a dystopian novel by the same name, it was in this year that we saw what many thought is the closest thing we've ever come to the literal Twilight Zone in real life, when then WWF owner Vince McMahon Jr. appeared on WCW TV to introduce WWF matches to an audience that had never seen them before. It would, and at the time, many thought this was ludicrous because wrestling was still in the territory days. Each territory or region had its own promotion, own promoter. Promotions would not run in each other's territories, and each promotion would be more or less relegated to their own regional TV. Now, Vince McMahon was someone who sought to buck that trend. After he had bought the company, the WWF, from his ailing father with the promise that Vince Jr. would not interfere with the other promotions, Vince soon began a power grab over the entire wrestling business, going directly against his father's wishes. This meant he was running in regions outside of his territory, signing talent to exclusive contracts, and also ignoring the governing body of wrestling, the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, which at that point still served somewhat of an important role. Also, finally, he eliminated his competition as he started to buy them up. And the last one is the most important one to pay attention to because that's what plays into this story of Black Saturday. In 1984, Vince made a play to buy Georgia Championship Wrestling. Now, not for the reason that you might think, though, because at the time, Georgia Championship Wrestling was partnered with Ted Turner and World Championship Wrestling to show stars like Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair on a national audience on the TBS Superstation, which was owned by Turner. Hopefully, you're following along with me here. Vince, at that point, wanted to get WWF a time slot on the TBS Superstation because that would mean his talent, his show would be on a station that was shown to a national audience. So, Vince, being Vince, tried to do that. Turner relented and said he would not agree to that. So Vince did what he can only do, and that's play the game. In order to get that coveted national TV time slot, Vince bought a majority stake in Georgia Championship Wrestling from the people like Jack Briscoe and Jerry Briscoe, which meant not only did he purchase Georgia Championship Wrestling, but he also took control of that coveted national TV time slot that was allotted to them. So he used this to promote WWF. When fans tuned in expecting to see Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair, they instead got the likes of Mean Gene Okerlund and George the Animal Steele. And in the end, Vince got to promote his superstars on a national time slot and dealt a huge blow to a major territorial rival, and Turner was left fuming and used this motivation to really kickstart WCW as a national competitor. And the days of the territories were from then on numbered. Trevor, looking back at this huge power grab that happened 37 years ago this week, what do you make of this? Looking back, what does Black Saturday really signify in the pro wrestling industry?
Like you mentioned, this was pretty much the first play to the whole Monday Night Wars that will follow many years later. This was so I wasn't too up to date with this. Didn't know exactly all of this before. Heard bits and pieces of it. Read more about it. It was one of those things. Reading about it, you feel like this was just early Vince showing how much how power hungry he was, how much to being the best and being at the top he was willing to, what he was willing to do to do that. It was a shame. It was smart. It was conniving, but it was also smart. Like he went about it as a smart businessman, but again, it was a conniving plan because he had other intentions from the get go. It's crazy. Just reading about this like you said, it's kind of like a novel. It's kind of like something you watch on TV. Like this really was like a Hollywood thing that really happened. You know what I mean?
It changed wrestling forever, and that's what I'm trying to get across by being so dramatic about it, because it was you were watching live drama unfold on your TV if you tuned in to Georgia Championship Wrestling. Like this was a huge deal. Some of these people had never even seen or even heard of Vince McMahon or the WWF. They probably knew about it, but they hadn't seen it, and then they were exposed to it. And this really is what made WWF, WWE, whatever you want to call it, the big national juggernaut that it became in wrestling. And again, I want to also emphasize the point that Ted Turner, this was what pissed off Ted Turner to the point where he felt like, I'm going all in on this wrestling thing. Without this, I don't think you see the ferocity or the resources put into World Championship Wrestling that they were, because Ted Turner felt one-upped.
Exactly. Vince did something that has never happened to Ted Turner, like you just said. He one-upped him. Like, Ted has never had that in the business game.
Absolutely. And he ended up one-upping him later when WCW folded and he bought it. But that's the story for another day. But just to signify what this means, there's so many storylines. We talked about Ted Turner and this being, the provocation that he needed to really put the resources behind Nitro and WCW. We talked about Vince McMahon. This was the biggest power grab in wrestling history, because shortly after, bought out AWA, bought out the rest of the territories, bought out the libraries, bought out the competitors, and he became the number one thing, the number one entity of wrestling nationally. It's all due to this time slot that he, in whatever ways, big thanks to Jack and Jerry Briscoe, acquired. And
Yep.
it's just so mind-boggling to think that the ambition to do this, in 1984 is just it's un it's you don't there's nobody else who could have done this. It's unrivaled is what I'm trying to say. Like there's nobody else who would have done this because even Vince's father literally on his deathbed as he sold the company to his son or gave it to his son, he said, "Son, don't buy out. Don't promote against the rest of the territories." And Vince defied that and
No.
did it anyway. It's just so crazy to look back at, so crazy to think about.
Yeah, man. This changed pro wrestling in a whole, man. It ushered in an era that we never thought would have happened.
Yeah, and after this, we saw the rise of Hulkamania, the rise of
Yeah.
WrestleMania, the golden era, really, of wrestling,
Yeah.
of WWF rather. And the other thing that I have to think about, like, we touched on it. Like, was this the right move? Do you think for pro wrestling? Like, what would happen if the territories were still around today? Like, it begs the question.
That's a very interesting question and a very interesting thing to think about. Like Georgia Championship Wrestling, I mean, like on certain TVs, you could get it on the like dial the UHF channel. I think you flip it over on the old TVs, and I remember my brother talking about watching it or whatever. But like, it's one of those things. Like I never saw it because I mean, I wasn't born at the time, but yeah, man, like you wonder what would have happened if all of these other promotions were accessible on TV. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
it's just a
just
lot. I'm sorry.
we just had a Zoom moment there. But it was, yeah, it's just crazy to think about if the territories were still around and in the national, really global scene of wrestling now, and how much that could have changed, and the stars like Steve Austin, The Rock, like, do they
Right.
happen in the territory days? We don't know, and but it's
Because
just
you had Georgia Championship Wrestling, you had Texas Southern, you had
WCCW. You had
the Mississippi promotion, right?
Yeah,
No, Memphis
you had
promotion.
Mid South. Did they have, was that Mid South or whatever Jerry Lawler's promotion was?
Yeah, yeah.
And then you had what's it called? Up north, AWA. Like there were
Yeah,
so
it
many
was so
different
many.
promotions. Then you had Canadian Stampede up in Canada.
Mhm.
It's just so much. And like Vince basically at one point owned it all, and now slowly there's chipping away at that. Ring of Honor had a great show this past week. We saw AEW's doing amazing things, selling out 10,000 people arenas. Like, so it's moving. It's moving back to hopefully a more saturated product, and that's what we want to see from the wrestling scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, Trevor. I think that just about does it on the main show here. Um, I didn't really have a fan question this week. I think we answered all these guys' questions throughout the show. I think that's good enough for them.
Yeah,
But Cincy and Liam holding it down in the chat, really holding it down in the chat.
ridiculous.
Yeah, they're fun. Remember when Jeff Hardy threw P Cup at Sheamus? We literally talked about this yesterday, boys. Literally talked about this yesterday. Yeah, did Shawn Michaels not do that too? I literally talked. Fuck you guys. I literally talked about this yesterday. And they're trolling me. I love how we have trolls now. We have
We
fans
do.
and we have
No,
trolls.
we do.
Anyway, guys, so this marks the end of this live show. We're going to be doing a special show on Patreon. It's going to be Patreon exclusive, so we'll start that in just a few minutes. So if you want to get access to that, go to patreon.com/Real Take Sports. The link is also in the description below. Patreon.com/Real Take Sports. Get the $5 a month tier, and you get access to that. We're just going to be shooting the shit, talking about wrestling for about the next, we'll do a few segments, and we'll go. But so if you want to catch that, be sure to head on over there. Trevor, say bye to the people.
Bye, people.
Yep. And we'll see you guys next time. Liam, Cincy, take it easy. We'll see you.